franchise of an issuing corporation for violation of the Securities Regulations Code. Now, securities, as may have been defined by some authors, represent a participation or interest in a corporation or in a profit-making venture or enterprise, which is evidenced by a certificate, a contract, an instrument, whether it is written or electronic. As one lawyer would put it, securities' main feature would actually be the acquisition of passive income or income coming from asset appropriation. So either ang kikitain mo coming from the securities will be in the form of dividends, in the form of interests, or gain kung sakasakaling ikaw ay magbebenta ng security na iyon. Kaya nga tuloy nagiging attractive ito sa investing public kasi nga wala kang supposedly gagawin other than maghintay, di ba? Kumbaga kumikita yung pera mo for you because you invested in these securities. Now, some example of securities will include shares of stock, bonds, debentures, notes, evidences, even promissory notes for that matter, and asset-backed securities, or yung mga securities which are secured by certain assets, maybe in the form of pledge or mortgage or other form of contract. It will also include investment contracts, which we will further define later, certificates of interest or participation in a profit-sharing agreement, ang ingin ng kapit ba? Certificates of deposit for a future subscription. Sandali lang, let me pause for a while. May sumisigaw na bata habang nagkaklase ako. So, securities will also involve fractional undivided interest in oil, gas, or other mineral rights, including yung paborito nyo sa AFAR na mga derivatives like options and warrants are also included within on what we classify as securities, as well as certificates of assignment, certificates of participation, trust certificates, voting trust certificates or similar instruments, and proprietary or non-proprietary membership certificates in corporations. So kasama dyan kahit yung mga membership mo sa non-stock corporation, securities din ang kanilang treatment, no? Lalo na if they issue a certificate relative to that, like yung mga Manila Polo Club, no? Yung medyo nag-appreciate ang value over time. And such other instruments as may be in the future determined by the SEC as falling within the definition of securities. Again, ang commonality between all of them is that technically you earn passive income from them or primarily from the appreciation of their value, no? In the form of a gain in the eventual disposal of these securities. Now, as we have mentioned, investment contracts also fall within the classification of securities. So from the definition here, you can derive already the requisites in order to have an investment contract, no? Or what can qualify as an investment contract. So it has an investment of money in a common enterprise, and their expectation of profits that will primarily be coming from the efforts of others. Ito lang yung medyo iniba natin doon sa batas sa Amerika na kinopya natin na Securities Regulation Code. No? Kasi sa Howey test, which was the test indicated in the US law for SRC, they used solely from the efforts of others. No? Pero eventually it was amended, and what we adopted is the amended version already na kahit hindi exclusively coming from the efforts of others, but the primary source of the income still is the efforts of others, then it will qualify as an investment contract. Kaya nga in one US Supreme Court case, ganito yung nangyari, which was also asked in the bar exam before, no? So si PHUC requires an investor to pay $234 to become a business center owner. So yung BCO dito, yung certificate din na ini-issue doon sa mga investor. No? This will then entitle the investor to recruit 2 persons. So kunwari ito si A, he can recruit 2 persons under him who will also pay each $234 from which magkakaroon ng $92 commission itong si A. No? In case the 2 enrollees will eventually recruit, no, sa under nila, so DNE, FNG, ayan, at nagkaroon din ng pares-pares, magkakaroon din ng additional commission ulit si A na $147.20. Na so ganyan yung mechanism ng BCO na binibenta nitong Power Homes Unlimited Corporation. So the question raised in this particular case was, will the BCO qualify as an investment contract? Because if it is an investment contract, then it will fall under the classification of securities that will be required or that will require pre-registration before they are actually sold or offered to the investing public. Otherwise, it will become illegal for them to sell these securities without such pre-registration. No? Di ba, medyo familiar naman itong lahat sa atin. Yan yung mga pagkakataon na matagal mo nang hindi nakakausap yung kaibigan mo, tapos bigla kang iti-text na magyayang magkape, no, out of nowhere, or mag-inom, na hindi naman siya nagyayaya before, tapos biglang maglalabas ng papel at tatanungin ka, ano ba ang mga pangarap mo sa buhay? Balak mo bang bumili ng bahay? Balak mo bang bumili ng kotse? Magkano yan? Kukumputin kung magkano supposedly ang disposable income mo and how long it will take before you can actually buy your dream house or dream car. Diba? So yan, parehong-pareho yung setup. No? Ganyan din yung nangyayari. So in this particular case, Sabi ng Supreme Court ng US, it will be considered an investment contract, no? Kasi nga the powerhouse or the BCO being sold, no? So may investment ng pera with the expectation of profits, and the expectation of profits primarily comes from the efforts of the recruits, no? And their eventual recruits as well, as the pyramid would go on. Kaya being an investment contract, then it should have been pre-registered prior to it being sold to the investing public, no? So it will qualify as an investment contract. Okay? Now, as we have mentioned, there is a registration requirement under the SRC as one of the ways by which the SRC protects the investing public by ensuring that the information indicated in the registration statement and the eventual prospectus are accurate and true and are full disclosures of all the necessary information that the investing public would have to know. So this will include a requirement that no securities will be sold or offered for distribution without a registration statement that will be filed and approved by the SEC. No? In fact, kailangan din dito mag-issue nga ng prospectus, yung parang pamphlet yan, no? That will include all the information relative to the securities. So, eventually also, the SEC is also empowered to audit any financial statements, asset, or other information that the firm or the issuing corporation applying for registration will issue or file with the SEC to make sure that there is full disclosure of all the information that will be required and to protect the investors and the public in general. So ano ba yung procedure natin for the registration? Yung filing nga ng registration statement which is required to be sworn. So ibig sabihin yan, may attestation, so mapupunta ka sa notary public kasi in case that there is any materially false information in your registration statement, that can be a ground to sue you for falsification of a public document. So the information that may be required in the registration statement will be determined by the SEC. Pagkatapos yan, the requirement also of the signatories with regards to sworn registration statement will be the executive officer, the principal operating officer, the principal financial officer, controller, accounting officer, or corporate secretary. Or in short, anybody whose actual knowledge of the information indicated in the registration statement, particularly the financials indicated therein. No? There can also be a written consent coming from an expert if they are named in the if they are named in the registration statement. So kailangan may written consent din nila that will be filed with the SEC. And when the registration statement would include shares to be sold by existing stockholders, then kailangan din ng written certification coming from them to ensure the accuracy of any part of the registration statement kasi sila na ang magbebenta ng sarili nilang shares of stock. Now, pagkatapos mag-file ng registration statement, syempre ang pinaka-importante dito yung pagbabayad ng filing fees. Under the SRC, the filing fee shall not exceed 10% of 1% of the aggregate price that you are expecting to receive from the sale of the securities. So yun ang magiging basis in determining the amount of fees to be paid. Pagkatapos bayaran yan, yung requirement of publication as to the notice of filing of the registration statement must be done in 2 newspapers of general circulation for 2 consecutive weeks. And after the publication, within 45 days after the filing of the registration statement, the SEC then will issue an order, whether giving effect to the registration statement or approving it or rejecting the registration statement. In the event, of course, that it is accepted or approved by the SEC, kailangan din mag-prepare nga ng tinatawag nating prospectus, which will also contain all the information relative to the securities that will be sold and as well as the information relative to the issuing corporation. No? And in fact, it is required also to be sworn para just in case nga na merong materially false information, pwede kang kasuhan for falsification of public documents. Okay? The prospectus will also indicate under oath that all the requirements for the registration have already been met and all the information indicated in the prospectus are true and correct. Okay, now take note, however, that there are 5 supposedly securities exempt from registration, but we can group them into 4 already. So una will be the securities that will be issued by the government of the Philippines, including that of any political subdivision. So kung kunwari ang city ay nag-issue ng bonds, no, or the government, the Bureau of Treasury issued treasury bills. No? So yung mga securities na yan are not required to be registered before they are sold to the investing public. The same is also true with regards towards the government of a foreign country, ang requirement lang dito is that we have diplomatic relations with them, no? Or any of their political subdivision for that matter. So exempt din, kaya pareho yung G lang kasi government issued securities, whether Philippine government issued or foreign government issued, are exempt from registration. Except nga lang, for the foreign government, dapat merong diplomatic relations with the Philippines to qualify for such exemption. Also exempt from registration will be any certificates that will be issued by a receiver or by a trustee in relation to a bankruptcy proceeding that is duly approved by the proper adjudicatory body. So kung kunwari, nag-file ka na for rehabilitation under the Financial Rehabilitation and Insolvency Act, no, which incidentally will be covered by the October 2022 board exam na. Okay? Kung nag-file ka na dyan and there will be certificates issued by the appointed rehabilitation receiver approved by the rehabilitation court, then exempt din yan from the registration requirement. Also exempt from the registration requirement will be any security or its derivatives which are regulated by the Insurance Commission, the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board, or the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So when the sale or disposal or transfer of those securities are regulated by these government agencies, the securities are likewise exempt from the registration requirement. And lastly, the securities that will be issued by a bank, except its own shares of stock. So when a bank, for example, issues a debt instrument or a deposit substitute for that matter, exempt yan from registration. But if it issues its own shares of stock, dapat registered muna with the SEC. So the exemption does not cover the bank's own shares of stock. So 5 ang exemption. Again, ang acronym na ginagamit dito dati ng Prof ko was GRIB, no? GRIB ang ginagamit niya, kaya government, receiver, insurance commission, then bank. No, yun ang nagiging points of reference to remember the securities exempt from the registration requirement. Okay? If there are securities that are exempt from registration, there are likewise certain transactions that are exempt from the registration requirement. Dito naman, dito natin again tatandaan ano ba ang primary purpose why we have the SRC. Again, the primary purpose would be to protect the investing public. So normally, the transactions covered here do not involve the investing public in general, kaya hindi na rin nire-require yung registration as to those transactions. So una, yan yung ating acronym, wala namang connection. No? Yan lang talagang para ano ba, medyo maayos-ayos na wordings, no? Or pagkakasunod-sunod ng letters para maayos yung wordings. So the first 3 will include a broker's transaction that will be executed only upon the customer's order on any registered exchange or trading market. So pinabenta mo lang kay broker, pinabili mo si broker ng mga securities, hindi na kailangan pang mag-register ni broker. No? Ang idea din naman dyan is that the securities being in an exchange or the Philippine Stock Exchange for our case is already registered with the SEC. No? Kaya, tsaka hindi naman technically affected ang investing public kasi nag-iisang transaction lang ito ni broker and only because of the customer's order. Kaya, ang kasunod din yan is an isolated transaction. One time lang, no? Which is not being conducted in the ordinary course of trade or business by the owner of the security. So, holder na siya, binenta lang niya or transfer niya to another person, not in the ordinary course of business or not in a repeated and successive transaction, but only one time. Kaya tinatawag nating isolated. And only for his own account, okay, then it will not be required to be registered anymore. Okay? Then also not exempt rather from the registration requirement will be the distribution of stock dividends. Ang idea dito unang-una, ang makakatanggap lang din naman talaga ng stock dividends na ito ay existing stockholders na, which presumably approved the transaction already because 2/3 requirement nga ang vote, no, para makapag-issue ng stock dividends. So again, hindi naman affected ang investing public kasi nga ang katransact lang dito ng corporation that is issuing the shares will be the existing stockholders or other security holders already. No? Kaya wala namang investing public involved, then the distribution of the stock dividends would not require registration anymore. So yan yung BIS sa ating biceps smile. Then the next 2 will be conversion of a particular security from one form to another. So kunwari, meron kang convertible bonds or bonds which have a conversion feature at in-exercise mo lang yung conversion feature na pinalitan ng common shares. No? So in that case, hindi na required i-register yung conversion mismo. Ang premise lang dito is that the bonds itself with the conversion feature or the security with the conversion feature was already registered under the SRC or at least exempt from the registration requirement before they were issued and delivered to the investors. Okay? And also an exclusive sale. An exclusive sale is one that happens when a corporation sells the unissued shares of stock but only to its own stockholders. No? So wala na namang again affected na investing public, kaya hindi naman kailangan na ng registration. Kasi ang katransact lang dito ng issuing corporation will be its already existing stockholders. Now, also exempt from registration will be a private placement. A private placement is a transaction conducted whenever the shares are sold to not more than or shares are sold to not more than 19 people. Ayan, yung pala nakasulat sa slide. Fewer than 20. Yan, not more than 19 or 19 or less, no, ang pinagbentahan within a 12-month period. Again, I suppose the 20 number of persons will be the material number to consider it public. No, kasi ganun din ang application natin yan sa bangko. Dapat kumukuha ka ng deposits from 20 depositors to be considered as a bank, or even a deposit substitute which will require 20 lenders, no, para magkaroon ng deposit substitute. So kung less than 20 or 19 or less, then hindi pa yan public, no, as the SRC would place it. Kaya hindi kailangan ng registration on transaction. Or subscription to shares of stock prior to its incorporation or in relation to the increase in the authorized capital stock of the corporation code. So hindi naman din again investing public ang involved, no? Kasi sa subscription prior to incorporation, that will be your incorporators, or in increase in authorized capital stock, no, ang idea din dyan is that you are transacting first primarily with the existing stockholders already. Now, also included in the exemption will be the sale to sophisticated, or yung tawag sa SRC are qualified buyers. Ito yung mga in the ordinary course of trade or business actually transacts on securities, buy and sell, no, as a form of investment, kasi yun talagang nagiging primary source din ng kanilang income. So this will include a bank, a registered investment house, an insurance company, and a pension fund or retirement plan. Pero ang catch dito, the pension fund or retirement plan must be maintained by the government or by a bank or other person authorized by the Bangko Sentral to engage in trust functions. Kaya kung kunwari, private corporation lang ang nagme-maintain ng pension fund, even though supposedly they would have the same functions, they do not fall within the classification of qualified buyers. Kasi binigyan dito ng requirement na dapat maintained by the government or by a bank or any person authorized by the BSP. Okay? An investment company or such other persons that the SEC may determine that would qualify as qualified or sophisticated buyers. No? So, yung mga yan, again, in the ordinary course of trade or business, would buy and sell securities or invest the money that they have in order to increase their income. No? So, si Bangko, mayroon siyang deposits from the depositors, ginagamit niya yan para ipautang or pambili ng securities para kumikita siya na mayroong pambayad din ng interest doon sa depositors. Ganon din siya insurance company, di ba? So, si insurance company nangongolekta ng premiums and naghihintay lang siya kung mangyayari ba yung risk that is being insured, pero while doing that, they are investing the premiums already para kumikita just in case na may kailangan bayaran eventually. Okay? Now, also included in the exemption will be the sale of mortgage-backed securities. Ang premise dito is that the mortgage is already foreclosed, so binibenta, no, yung mortgage na yun din mismo. So pag binenta yung mortgage together with the securities that are secured by the mortgage, no, then it will be exempt from the registration requirement. Also, those in relation to insolvency or bankruptcy, I suppose this is for practicality purposes, no? Kasi if it is related to insolvency or bankruptcy already, medyo may oras na hinahabol ang korte. No? In fact, under the FRIA, a rehabilitation should be within a period of 1 year lamang. Kaya siguro, para mawala na rin yung red tape, no, o yung tinatawag na bureaucracy part ng pag-distribute ng securities, then hindi na nire-require yung registration if it is related to an insolvency or bankruptcy proceeding. Then also exempt from registration will be the foreclosure of a pledge or mortgage. The premise here is that the security is given by way of pledge or mortgage and there was unpaid obligations or an obligation that was not fulfilled, kaya pino-foreclose na ngayon ng pledge or mortgage at binibenta sa public auction yung security that was pledged or that was the subject of the mortgage. Iba lang ang ginamit na term, no? Kasi sa SRC ang ginamit na term is to liquidate a pledge, pero that's technically foreclosure. Yun din yun, no? Foreclosure din. And lastly, an exchange of securities, no, exclusively with the stockholders. Again, wala namang affected na investing public, no? Kaya hindi na nire-require yung registration. So, those are the transactions which are exempt from the registration requirement under the Securities Regulation Code. Okay, now, The SEC is allowed under the law to exempt other transactions whenever it is not necessary in public interest or protection of investors. So katulad ng mga exclusive sale, conversion, no, na wala namang affected investing public. Kahit hindi naman nakalista dito sa listahan na ito, pwede pa rin. Yun nga lang, required pa rin magbayad ng exception fee, no, of 1/10 of 1%, which is actually the same amount that you would have paid if it were registrable. Diba? Pareho lang, mag-exempt ka man or required mag-register, pareho lang yung babayaran mong fee sa SEC. Now, aside from the registration requirements, sabi nga natin, one other way for the SEC to protect the investing public will be to require certain reports coming from the issuing corporation. So this will include the annual report. Yan pa ang term na ginagamit. So forgive me kung hindi na yan ang ginagamit natin talaga sa accounting ngayon. Pero yan pa rin ang nakasulat sa batas. No? So balance sheet, profit and loss statement, and a statement of cash flows that is required to be certified by a certified public accountant, and a management discussion and analysis of the results of operation. And other periodical reports, including interim fiscal period reports and current reports on developments with relation to the issuing corporation. That may be material in the sense that it may help the investors decide on whether to buy the securities, or for the existing investors to decide whether to sell or hold the existing securities that they have. No? Kaya material dapat yung information that will be required by the SEC. Okay? Now, kanino nag-a-apply itong reportorial requirements na ito? Under the SRC, this will be applicable only to an issuing corporation that is either or that has a class of securities pursuant to a registration. So may ni-require na securities na dapat i-register with the SEC, or the class of securities that they have is listed for trading in the Philippine Stock Exchange. So publicly listed, no, ang corporation. Or kahit hindi sila publicly listed but they would qualify as what we call public corporations. Ayan. Ito yan, public corporation ang tawag dyan. Dalawa ang requirement. The assets of the corporation is at least 50 million pesos, and there are 200 or more shareholders who holds at least 100 share each. No? So kapag na-meet itong requirements na ito, ang classification na kay corporation ay public corporation. Although hindi nga siya listed in the stock exchange, kaya hindi natin siya tinatawag na publicly listed. No? Public corporation lang ang nagiging category niya. Importante yan because later on also, the requirements for mandatory tender offer will be applicable only to these corporations. Sa kanila lang din mag-a-apply yung mandatory tender offer. Okay? Now, so ito na nga yung tender offer na pinag-uusapan natin. So a tender offer, as the name suggests, is an offer. No? But it is an offer to purchase the stock holdings of existing shareholders. Kaya lang siya tender offer because it is an offer extended to all the existing stockholders without any exception to tender their shares for purchase. No? So literal na ang offer dito ay ibenta mo sa akin ang shares of stock mo, at ang offer na ito is extended to all the existing stockholders, not just to a few. No? So the purpose kung bakit meron tayong mandatory, where the law would require that the tender offer must be made to all the stockholders, is to provide the minority stockholders with a fair price for their shares of stock. Imagine kung kunwari, ang magbibenta ng shares of stock is a majority stockholder holding 40% of the shares, medyo material ang magiging change in the ownership and management of the corporation, di ba? So parang nagkakaroon dapat ng pagkakataon si minority stockholders na magkaroon ng way out of the corporation if they don't want to be involved because of the change in ownership. Yun nga lang, because they want to sell their shares already, the law would allow them or provide them an opportunity to have better prices for their shares of stock. Kasi syempre, pag in-offer na bilhin yung majority stock holdings ng corporation, bibilin yan at a premium. No? Hindi naman yan bibilin for lower than their fair value. Bibilin yan at a premium. So at least, yung minority stockholders, pag in-offeran din sila ng same terms and conditions, pwede silang mag-agree. No? At makakakuha sila ng mas malaking return in relation to their shares. Okay? So, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na mandatory tender offer, where the offer will be extended again to all the stockholders, including the minority shareholders. So kailan nag-a-apply itong mandatory tender offer? Dalawa to. So una, the acquisition is at least 35% over a period of 12 months. Whether a person or a group of persons acting together would acquire at least 35% over a period of 12 months. No? So dati yan 30%, pero that was already increased by the SEC to 35%. Okay? And again, kanino lang mag-a-apply? If the shares of stock or security applies to a listed corporation in a stock exchange, or a corporation that is considered public. Yun nga yung sinasabi natin kanina, no, that has at least 50 million in assets and having 200 shareholders who holds at least 100 shares each. No? So kapag yung shares involved affects these two types of corporations, then mag-a-apply yung mandatory tender offer rule. So ito nga yung una, if the acquisition of the shares will be at least 35%, pero pwede rin namang makover ng mandatory tender offer even if it is less than 35%, pero existing stockholder na yung bumibili. And the resulting ownership of that stockholder will be over 50% because of that purchase. So kahit 20% lang ang binili mo, hindi nag-qualify dun sa at least 35, pero may hawak ka ng 31% bago ka pa bumili na magiging 51% ang ownership mo, then you will be also covered by the mandatory tender offer rule. No, so kahit less than 35 but it will result in over 50% ownership of the outstanding equity shares, then it will also be covered by the mandatory tender offer rule. Okay? So to give an illustration, si U Corporation, by the way, mas simple muna tayo. No? So kung kunwari ito si A, B, at C ang primary stockholders and others, ayan, ng isang corporation. Let's call it X Corporation. No? A holds 40% of the outstanding capital stock and B holds 30% of the outstanding capital stock. Then 20% ang hawak nito ni C and the remaining 10% is held by the minority stockholders. Let's say for example that X Corporation is a public corporation or a publicly listed corporation for that matter. At ito ngayon si Z. No, si Z sabi niya kay A, bibilin ko na yung buong 40% mo. Then since more than 35 or at least nag-qualify dun sa at least 35% ang i-acquire ni Z, he will be required to make the same offer for purchase to B, C, and the others. Same terms and conditions dapat. No? So yun nga ang purpose para to protect the minority stockholders and to give them fair prices for their shareholdings no before magkaroon ng material change in the ownership of the corporation. Ngayon, kung sakasakali, paano sir kung kunwari lahat sila nag-agree? No, lahat sila pumayag. Sige, bilhin mo na rin yung shares namin. Ibig bang sabihin required si Z na bilhin lahat? Hindi, no? Ang required lang na bilhin ni Z will be the same percentage that he actually intends to buy. So yung 40% pa rin. Yun nga lang, it will be prorated among all the stockholders who would want to sell. No? So ipo-prorate lang pero hindi sila required na bilhin yung 100% ng shareholdings. Now, kung kunwari sabi natin, etong si C naman ang bibili from A, at ang gusto niyang bilhin na number of shares of stock ay 31% lang. So sabi natin, even it is less than 35%, but coupled with his existing ownership, it will become over 50%. So required din si C na dapat i-offer kay B at kay others yung same terms and conditions for the purchase of the shares. Okay? So yan ang ating mandatory tender offer rule. Now, take note that the mandatory tender offer rule would likewise apply to indirect acquisitions of shares of stock as held by the Supreme Court. So ito nga yung kaso na yan. So dito, si U Corporation is a listed company in the PSE. May dalawa siyang principal stockholders, si X Corporation na may-ari ng 60% ni U and si ABC Corporation who owns 17%. The remaining 23% is held by others or by minority stockholders. In turn, itong si X Corporation who owns 60% of U Corporation has three primary stockholders. No? So si XA Corporation holds 21%, XB holds 30%, and ABC Corporation holds 9%. And this is the same ABC Corporation that owns 17% directly of U Corporation. No? So it will be the others or the remaining 40% is held by other stockholders or minority stockholders. So kung i-visualize natin ang setup no ng ownership, ganito yan, si U Corporation, so 60% hawak ni X, 17% kay ABC, and the others 23%. Si X Corporation on the other hand is 21% owned by XA and XB owns 30%, ABC owns 9%, and the others remaining holds 40%. Ang nangyari dito sa kaso na ito, si ABC Corporation wanted to purchase the ownership of XA and XB. No? So ang acquisition niya is 51%, ang resulting ownership niya is 60%. So in both cases, nag-qualify yan for the mandatory tender offer, kaya nagkaroon tuloy ng offer dito sa 40% others. No? So ano problema sir? Mandatory tender offer naman pala. Ang nagreklamo dito, ito. No, yung others ng U Corporation who holds 23%. Sabi ni ABC sa kanila, talagang yun yung sinabi. Paul Toon, hindi naman siya kasali, bakit kailangan ko mag-mandatory tender offer sa kanya? Kaya nga ang kaso dito is between the minority stockholders of the others and ABC Corporation who acquired shares of X Corporation. And in this case, the Supreme Court actually agreed with the other stockholders of U Corporation. So sabi dito, ABC acquires 51%, so nag-tender offer siya dun sa stockholders ni X Corporation. Now, he is also required to make a tender offer to the stockholders of U Corporation kasi ang ownership ni X kay U Corporation ay 60% at ang resulting ownership ganito. Yan. Para ma-visualize natin better, no? So pag na-acquire na ni ABC itong dalawa, ang magiging total stock ownership niya ay X Corporation will now be 60%. But since X Corporation owns 60% of U Corporation, sabi ng Supreme Court, if you multiply those, this will technically result in a 35% indirect ownership of U Corporation by ABC. No? So dahil merong indirect ownership na 36% rather, and direct ownership, ito, na 17%, this will now result in a total of 53% ownership of ABC Corporation in U Corporation. So dahil nag-exceed ng 50%, kaya ni-require na dapat mag-mandatory tender offer din siya dun sa other stockholders. Because again, as we have mentioned earlier, the mandatory tender offer rule will likewise be applicable even in indirect acquisitions. No? So yan, dahil may resulting 53% ownership in U, then it will be required to make a tender offer as well to the other stockholders of U Corporation. Okay? Now, there are, of course, certain transactions that will be exempt from the mandatory tender offer rule, which will include issuance of shares coming from the unissued capital stock, so within the authorized capital stock pa, which will not result in 50% or more ownership of the shares by the purchaser. It will also be an increase in authorized capital stock or foreclosure proceedings or privatization undertaken by the government, so GOCC na binibenta ngayon sa public para maging privately owned na, hindi rin covered ng mandatory tender offer rule. Kasi ang idea dyan, the primary stockholder is the government, no? And sila mismo yung nagbebenta ng shares doon sa corporation na yon. Or purchases that are in relation to corporate rehabilitation, which may be necessary to rehabilitate the petitioner company. Okay, and purchases that are done through an open market like the Philippine Stock Exchange at the prevailing market price. So yan, wala namang problema kasi matching lang ang ginagawa sa stock exchange. Or in a merger or consolidation. So in all cases here, the mandatory tender offer rule will not be applicable. So the process, so merong offer that will be made in an announcement of the intention to purchase. So yung announcement na yan will be made in a newspaper of general circulation at least 2 business days prior to the commencement of the tender offer. Okay, so magpa-file with the SEC ng Form 9-19-1, including all the exhibits thereto and the prescribed filing fees. I don't know why the law would call it exhibits, no? It would have been more accurate to just call them documentary requirements kasi pag tinawag mo exhibits, parang ebidensya sa trial. And hand-deliver a copy of such form including all the exhibits to the target company at its principal executive office and to each exchange, pero sa atin again, iisa lang yan, PSE lang, where such class of the target's company securities are listed for trading. Then report the results of the tender offer by filing with the commission not later than 10 days after the termination of the tender offer, the copies of the final amendments to the form. No? Indicating already the results kung sino ang nag-agree na magbenta ng shares at kung sino ang mga hindi. Okay? So later on, we'll discuss also insider information. At this point, I just want to point out that if the information relates to a tender offer, the disclosure of that information or the use of that information to transact on a particular type of securities will be considered illegal for any person. No? As we will discuss later kasi, si insider trading applies only to an insider. Pero dito, kahit hindi ka maging insider, magiging unlawful pa rin, again, if the information relates to a tender offer. Okay, so before we proceed with the fraudulent transactions, we'll take our second break and come back in a while. Okay, break. And we are now on the final leg of our discussion for corporations and SRC. So andito tayo ngayon sa fraudulent transactions. So first in our list will be what we call a wash sale. No, dito, the sale is being conducted by one and the same person or beneficial owner only. At ang ginagawa niya, siya yung nagbenta, siya rin yung bibili ng shares of stock in the stock exchange. Ang idea lang is that he wanted to make it appear that the shares are actively traded when in fact siya lang pala ang bumibili at nagbebenta ng shares of stock. Kamukha din yan yung tinatawag nating matched order. Yun lang dito, 2 or more persons na ang involved. No? So kunwari si A, ibibenta niya yung shares of stock, magkakaroon siya ng placement to sell in the exchange at magkakaroon din ng placement to buy yung kasabot niyang si B for the same number of shares of stock and for the same shares of stock for that matter, no? For the same price as well. Okay. So again, these two transactions will be considered as illegal or fraudulent only when the purpose for which they are being done is to create a false or misleading notion that the shares are actively traded in the market. No? Kasi actually, yun lang naman ang purpose kung bakit nila ginagawa yan, supposedly. No? Pero kung ikaw naman ay binenta mo yung shares of stock kasi tumaas talaga ang value niya at nagkaroon ka ng gain, but within the same trading day, bumaba bigla yung value niya at binili mo ulit, okay lang naman yan. No? Hindi naman yun masama. Ang premise is you wanted to earn in trading, pero hindi naman siya dahil to make it appear that the shares are actively traded when in fact they are not. Okay? So dun lang yung moment na nagiging illegal itong wash, sale, or matched order. Okay? The third will be yung tinatawag na marking the close, yung pagpe-place mo dito ng purchase in a or sale for that matter in the stock exchange is very close already to the end of the trading period. So kunwari hanggang 3 p.m., yung pag-place mo ng order or ng order to purchase or order to sell, no, is nilagay mo 259, 258, 255, very close na, no? Para pagdating sa closing price na ipapublish sa dyaryo kinabukasan, yung closing price na lalabas, yung purchase price or selling price na nilagay mo. No? Now, we also have painting the tape. It involves an exaggerated higher or lower price with regards to the sale or purchase of a security sa gitna naman, no? Hindi ito ginagawa sa dulo pero sa gitna. Kasi supposedly, when the shares are being traded in a stock exchange, may lumalabas na tape as to the fluctuations in the value. So parang kung kunwari, pasentavo-sentavo lang ang changes doon sa tape, biglang tumataas ng husto because of what you did. No? Yung paglagay mo nga ng exaggerated na higher or lower price involved in the sale or purchase of the securities. Okay? Or yung squeezing the float na tinatawag. No? In this case, the securities or any portion of it is being withheld by the dealers or by the owners of the securities to make it appear that the supply is low. And as we all know, in macroeconomics, kapag mababa ang supply at mataas ang demand, it will drive the prices up, no, for those particular securities in this case, okay? Particularly in a stock exchange. So kung mas marami yung gustong bumili, tapos ikaw naman binipilit mo na wag ibenta yung sa sarili mong shares of stock or intentionally withholding it for the sole purpose of driving the prices up, then it becomes illegal. No? Yung tinatawag na squeezing the float. Okay? And meron ding tinatawag na hype and dump. Ito medyo maraming proseso. No? So, bibili ka ng shares of stock of a shell company. Wala naman ito talagang operations inside, no? Talagang hollow, kaya nga tinatawag na shell dahil wala namang laman, technically speaking. So, kaya nga ang requirement dapat dormant and at the same time it is a public shell company. Pagkabili mo niyan, you will merge the shell company with a privately held company of the person or group of persons that will be involved in order to gain control of the majority stocks of the merged entity. Pagkatapos niyan, magkakaroon ng reverse split of the shares, and after that, they will reissue the share certificate in the name of the merged entity to relatives and associates, yung mga magiging kasabwat, no, dito sa hype and dump. Pagkatapos dito na papasok yung tinatawag na hype portion. So there will be a broker dealer who will then market the shares of stocks of the newly merged entity, iha-hype, no, para maging demandable or magiging mataas ang demand doon sa shares of stock na yan. Okay? And pagkatapos ng hyping portion is the dumping portion already. Kapag tumaas na yung shares of price because of the hype that was conducted, so tumaas ang demand, tumaas ang presyo, then that is the time that the shareholders involved and their relatives and associates for that matter would dump the shares of stock and bail out of the company. Okay, so yan yung tinatawag nating hype and dump. And number 7 is what we call boiler room operations. Ito nakita nyo na to, I suppose, dun sa Wolf of Wall Street. No? So dito may direct contact yung mga supposed brokers to the potential investors, even calling them or contacting them via mail to offer securities. Okay? And the investors are then induced to purchase through hard selling techniques. Di ba pag napanood niyo yung Wolf of Wall Street, medyo matindihan yung mga phone calls na ginagawa dun sa floor, no? Which is supposedly illegal as well. Okay? Kasi most of the time, the information that they provide to the potential investors are exaggerated, lalo na sa potential returns on the shares. Kaya misleading, no, yung information that is being provided. So all of them, yung 3 to 7 natin, will be considered as illegal or unlawful if it is effected to increase the price or induce the purchase of a security of a controlled or commonly controlled company by others, or to depress their price to induce the sale of the security and eventually selling them when they have higher prices to have gains, no, from those disposal, or to create active trading to induce the purchase or sale through the said devices or scheme, when in fact there is actually no active trading in relation to the shares of stock. Ngayon, sinasama lang sa listahan na rin ito will be yung misinformation on any movement of the price of shares. So dito, yung direct misinformation alone is already considered as an illegal activity if the purpose will be to raise or depress the prices of the security and eventually induce their purchase or sale because of that misinformation. And yun nga, making false or misleading statements for the very same purpose of inducing the purchase or sale of a security is also considered a fraudulent transaction. Okay. Now, we also have here what you call pegging or fixing or stabilizing the price of security, which can be effected either alone or with others through any series of transactions for the purchase of, or sale of that particular shares of stock if the purpose will be to fix nga the price of the security. And yung short sale, although a short sale in itself is not illegal, it is merely regulated. No? In fact, this is covered by the securities lending and borrowing rules. No? So merong securities borrowing and lending, literally speaking, no? Na merong hiraman. So let me just illustrate to para ma-imagine nyo yung securities borrowing and lending. So kunwari ito si O, who is the owner of 100 shares of a particular corporation. Let's say Jollibee. Jollibee Food Corporation. Meron ditong borrower na tinatawag, no? The borrower. Ayan, securities borrower. Kaya ang magiging role tuloy ni owner din is lender. Literally, the shares of stock will be lent, ipapahiram muna kay borrower, with the borrower expecting that the price of the shares of stock will eventually decrease. No? Yan ang expectation ni borrower. So kunwari, nung hiniram ni borrower yung shares of stock, ang value niya ay 100 pesos, no? Ibibenta niya ngayon yan. So he will sell the shares of stock if the value is 100 at kapag ito ay bumaba sa 80 pesos, let's say, no, bibili niya ulit. So he will then buy again the shares of stock and then return it to the lender. So yung difference dito na 20 times 100 pesos na 2,000, yan na ngayon ang kinita ng borrower. No? So ang tatanong ng iba dito, bakit naman po may nagpapahiram ng shares of stock? Because normally may interest din. No? So kung kunwari, if the lender of the securities, in this case si O, charged an interest of 100 pesos, ibabawas lang din yon sa kikitain ng borrower. But take note again, this is not an illegal transaction. This is merely regulated by the SEC. No? Basta it is done in accordance with the rules of securities borrowing and lending, it is a completely valid and legal transaction. Okay? Now, and lastly, we have what you call insider trading. From the very definition, there are three material things to note in order for insider trading to be committed. There is an insider who is in possession of a material non-public information and he transacts in a security. Now, whether buying or selling the securities while he is in possession of the material non-public information. So isa-isahin natin yung mga yan. Una, what is a material non-public information? It is material if the information relative to the securities will affect its price or will influence a person or a potential investor for that matter in deciding whether to buy, sell, or hold a security. So nakaka-apekto siya sa presyo at because of that information, it will either increase the value of the shares or decrease its value, which will then help the investor or the holder of the security to decide, ibibenta ko na ba to habang hindi pa bumababa ang presyo or hihintayin ko na tumaas bago ko ibenta yung shares of stock. No? So yan, it is considered non-public, no, because it is not available to the public, literally lang. No? So material because it will affect decision-making processes. It is non-public because it is not available to the public. Ano naman ngayon si insider? There are 6 people considered as 5 categories of who will be classified as insiders. So number 1 will be the issuer corporation itself is an insider because it is in possession of the material non-public information that will be relevant to its securities, no, the price of its securities. It will also include the director or officer of that issuer corporation or a person controlling the issuer corporation itself, including a stockholder, na majority stockholder, or any person who will have a relationship or former relationship to the issuer that will give him access to material non-public information. So dyan, pwede pumasok sekretarya ng direktor, sekretarya ng presidente, auditors of the corporation, lawyers of the corporation may also fall within this category. Kahit pa nag-resign na yung mga yan, no? But when they were employed, they had access to the material non-public information, covered pa rin sila nung term na insider. Or with regards to government agency, so employees, director, or officers of an exchange or the PSE, a clearing agency, or a self-regulatory organization that will have access to material non-public information. And lastly, any person who will learn such information by communication from any of the foregoing insiders. So ito nga yung tinatawag din ng prof ko dati na TP. Yan. Kasi nakaka-receive siya ng tip from any of the first four that we have already mentioned. But take note, kailangan official, no, na in-inform siya. Hindi pwedeng by mistake or hindi pwedeng by error lang kaya niya nalaman. And also, a TP by himself cannot create another TP. Kasi kailangan to be considered a TP, you receive the information from any of the first four that we have already mentioned. Yung acronym na ginagamit dito ng prof ko dati was TRIGAD. Ayan. So dito papasok yung TP, ayan yung because of relationship, the issuer corporation, government employees, officers, no, papasok dyan, and directors or officers of the issuing corporation. So ayan yung TRIGAD. Okay? So to give an exceptions, first, a person in possession of a material non-public information can already transact on the securities without being guilty of insider trading whenever he can prove that the information was not gained from an insider, or if the other party is identified, whether binenta niya, kilala natin kung sino ang buyer, or binili niya, kilala natin kung sino ang seller. And the buyer or the seller or the other party knows the one buying or selling already disclosed the material non-public information to the one he is transacting with, or had reason to believe that the other party is already in possession of the material non-public information. Okay. Now, there is a presumption here that the purchase or sale of a security of the issuer made by an insider or the relatives of the insider, the spouse, relatives by affinity or consanguinity within the second degree, whether legitimate or common law, so kahit hindi kinasal, live-in lang kayo, shall be presumed to have been effected while in possession of the material non-public information. Whenever the buying or the selling of the shares of stock or security will be after the information came into existence, but before it is disseminated to the public and a reasonable time has already lapsed for them to absorb the information. So hindi automatic na nagiging public na just because it was disclosed, bibigyan pa natin ng oras yung public para i-absorb or i-evaluate yung effects ng information na yan as to the security. Okay? So, let's take this particular illustration for insider trading, which is an actual US Supreme Court case, no? Kasi doon nga natin ginaya din na naging question na rin sa bar exam. So, Gas Corporation is a publicly listed company who discovered a rich deposit of natural gas. So, the information was not made public in order to acquire the lands at the surrounding area at cheap prices. Prior to the disclosure, the directors and officers of the company bought shares of the corporation. So, eventually, when the information became public, the prices of the shares went up. So, will they be liable for insider trading? Unang-una, sabi natin, meron bang insider? Yes. Directors and officers of the corporation, issuing corporation, are considered as insiders already. Ngayon, is the information material and non-public? Yes. Because non-public dahil hindi pa dinisclose, material because it will significantly affect the price. As shown, no, tumaas nga yung presyo. Kasi syempre, it will provide a new stream of revenues for the corporation. That's why the natural tendency for the value of the shares will be to increase. And since the directors and officers are insiders and they transacted on the shares of stock while in possession of the material non-public information, then they will be liable for insider trading. So again, tatlo, may insider ba, material non-public information ba ang involved, and did they transact on the security? Now, if all the three are present, then there is insider trading already. Okay? Now, assuming, ito iba muna, assuming the director, one of the directors, let's say si D, no? Sabi ni D, sa kanyang kaibigan nakipag-inuman siya, kunwari kay ex-tropa niya. Sabi niya, Brad, nakahanap kami ng lupa kung saan merong rich oil deposits, no, natataas ang revenue. Bili ka na ng shares of stock namin. Ngayon, itong si X bumili. Will X be considered guilty of insider trading? The answer is yes. Kasi si X dito, kahit wala siya sa listahan natin ng insiders, magpo-fall siya sa category ng TP because he received the information from the director who is one of the first four in the list of insiders. Na. Ngayon, kung kunwari itong si X pagkatapos makipag-inuman, ay labing-labing naman sa kanyang kabit. Ayan, kabit. So pagkatapos silang magmahalan, sabi niya sa kabit niya, mahal, bili ka ng shares of stock nila paring D kasi tataas ang value ng shares of stock nila dahil doon sa kanilang discovery. So ang ginawa ngayon ng kabit, bumili din siya. Will the kabit be guilty of insider trading? The answer is technically no. Kasi a TP cannot create another TP. The information must have come again from the first four insiders in order to be guilty of insider trading. Okay? Now, ito lang yung isang naging follow-up question sa bar. So, assuming employees of a printing company who handles the printing work of Gas Corporation. So, meron kang Gas Corp, pinapadala nila yung kanilang mga pinapaprint dito sa printing company na ito. No? And accidentally, nasama yung exploration report, no, involved in the oil deposits doon sa mga napadala doon sa printing company. And by accident, nabasa ito ng mga employees at sila ay bumili ng shares habang mababa pa ang presyo. At nung naging public na nga ang information, they sold it eventually at huge profits. May the employees be guilty of insider trading? The suggested answer was no. No? Kasi sabi natin, in order to be considered a TP, dapat they receive the information by a communication. And in this particular instance, they receive the information only by accident. No? Only by accident. Kaya hindi sila pwedeng ma-consider as insiders, and since they are not insiders, then there is no insider trading. Okay? So, now, as we have mentioned earlier, sabi natin, when it comes to insider trading, but the information relates to a tender offer, the illegality of disclosure or the illegality of transacting on the shares will be considered illegal for any person, not just the insiders. So kung kunwari, yung report ng Gas Corporation na binigay dun sa printing company involves a tender offer and the employees transacted on those particular securities or shares of stock, they will also be guilty of insider trading kahit technically hindi sila insider. Kasi nga, any person ang magiging liable if the information relates to a tender offer. Yan lang ang nagiging qualifier dyan. Person, hindi na kailangan pang insider para maging guilty ng insider trading. Okay? So yun nga, it shall be unlawful for any insider to communicate the material non-public information about the issuer or the security to any person who, by virtue of the communication, becomes an insider. When the insider communicating the information knows or has reason to believe that the person he is disclosing the information to will likely transact on the security while in possession of such information, regardless, okay, if whether the one to whom the communication was given actually traded on the security. The disclosure itself becomes an illegal act already. All right. And the filing of the general information sheet under the rules of the SEC will be dependent on whether you are a stock corporation. That will be 30 calendar days counted from the date of the annual stockholders meeting, which again can be any date under the bylaws, or if not indicated, any date after April 15. So within 30 days, ipapasa na yung GIS doon sa SEC. Yung GIS, as the name would suggest, really is just an information sheet that contains the information regarding ownership of the corporation, who are the board of directors, and who are the corporate officers of the corporation. Now, materially, yun ang material na contents ng general information sheet. If you're a non-stock corporation, the 30 calendar days of the deadline for filing will be counted from the date of the annual members meeting. And in foreign corporations, the counting of the 30 days will be from the anniversary date of the issuance of the SEC license. Now, with regards the annual financial statements, for those who are under the calendar year, this will be dependent on the schedule that the SEC will be providing, which will be dependent on the last digit of your registration or license number. So pwedeng sabihin ng SEC, o yung 1 to 4, ang deadline nyo is April 30, yung 5 to 6, ang deadline nyo is May 15, no? So depende sa schedule na isiset ng SEC. Nevertheless, any corporation may file the AFS, no, regardless of their number, on or before the first day stated in the coding schedule. So kung ang coding schedule na unang-una ay April 30, no, then before that, any corporation may file their AFS already. No? Hindi mo na kailangan maghintay nung mismong schedule mo naman. Okay? Now, those who are using the fiscal year, as a general rule, it will be filed within 120 calendar days from the end of the fiscal year. But if you are a broker-dealer, it will be 110 days only. And if you are a listed company or a public company, it will be 105 days from the end of the fiscal year. Again, yung public company natin, yan yung 50 million ng assets and at least 200 shareholders holding 100 shares each. Okay? Now, the FS and other consolidated financial other than the consolidated financial statement shall have the stamp of the BIR, kasi required na i-file muna yung FS with the BIR together with your income tax return prior to the filing of the SEC with prior to the filing of the annual financial statements with the SEC. Kaya kailangan may stamp din ng BIR yung ipa-file mo doon sa SEC. Okay, so that concludes our discussion in relation to SRC. Let's take the remaining 5 questions relative to SRC. So number 41, hindi ko mabasa. The Securities Regulations Code aim to protect the investing public through the following, except which one? Ayan. Which again is the primary purpose of why we have the SRC, to protect the investing public. May meeting din ako dapat today sa Maybank. Sabi ko lang sa CFO ko, I have another meeting set. But we have sector calibration today. Supposedly, today kami magde-decide sino-sino yung mga ipopromote at i-discuss yung mga rank ng mga staff. Tingnan nyo, ganyan kayo ka-importante. Di ba na mawala ng trabaho? Sige, let me end the poll there and share with you the results. So most of you got it correctly. None is an exception. No? All of those will be ways by which the SRC protects the investing public. Okay. Number 42, the following are securities that are exempt from the coverage of the Securities Regulations Code except, ayan nga, yung GRIB natin, no? Yung GRIB natin kanina. Okay, 10 more seconds for the others. Hindi nasa chat. Genti, ano yung plus? Sige, let me end the poll there, share with you the results. So the answer here will be letter D kasi nga excluding supposedly the shares of stock of the bank. No, it will be covered by the registration requirement. But all other securities issued by a bank other than its shares of stock will be considered exempt from the registration requirement. Yeah. So the sale of securities to any number of the following qualified buyers are exempt from the registration requirement except, ayan, medyo ano lang to, medyo tuso yung question na to, but to emphasize lang on the difference, no, or the qualifier that we have mentioned earlier. Again, ito yung mga sophisticated or qualified buyers natin who in the ordinary course of business would transact, okay, in relation to securities, na whether buying or selling as part of their investments. Yung nagtatanong si May, ayan, sinagot ka na. 41 is D. Sige, 10 more questions, 10 more seconds for the others. So 10 more questions. Okay, sige, let me end the poll there and share with you the results. So the best answer that you can have here will be letter D. Kasi nga dapat the pension fund or retirement plan is being maintained either by the government or its political subdivisions or by a bank or a person that is licensed or authorized by the BSP to engage in trust activities. Okay, so hindi agad-agad just because it is a pension fund or retirement plan, qualified buyer na. Kasi may qualification pa na dapat i-consider. Okay, now the following are considered as insiders. Which one would be the exception? Hindi ba ang bibilis sumagot? Minsan hindi pa natin nababasa yung tanong may sagot. Sige, 5 more seconds for the others. Joke lang. Mabilis lang kasi ito. No? Sige, 10 more seconds. Ayan. Okay, sige, let me end the poll there and share with you the results. So that will be letter D. Kasi dapat by a communication, nare-receive ng person na iyan from any of the first 4 insiders that we have mentioned earlier, no? In order to be considered a TP. Yan. So kailangan, if it is received by mistake or error, technically speaking, they do not become insiders. But again, ang qualifier din natin dyan, kung related naman yan sa tender offer, it doesn't matter whether insider or not. No? Kasi it is illegal for any person to transact in the securities if the information is relative to a tender offer. Okay, and number 45, wala yung poll. Ayan. Relaunch the poll. Which of the following is not covered by the mandatory tender offer rule with regards to the stockholders of X corporation? Medyo tuso lang ang tanong na ito, no? Sige, 5 more seconds for the others. Okay, sige, let me end the poll there and share with you the results. Actually, the answer here is letter C. No? Hindi yan nag-qualify for the mandatory tender offer rule. Kasi if you're going to look at it, yung acquisition ng 50%, ano, saan punta? Wala. Ayan. Yung acquisition ng 50% is technically acquiring 32% in direct ownership, no, of X corporation. And the direct ownership of E in relation to X corporation is only 18%. Kaya ang resulting ownership lang niya is exactly 50%. And in order to qualify again for mandatory tender offer, dapat over 50%, no, para mag-qualify for the mandatory tender offer rule. That's why number 45 will be letter C. All right? And that concludes our discussion for corporation law and the Securities Regulation Code. Again, these two topics together will account for 28 questions based on the current TOS of the BOA. And historically, marami talaga ang tanong na nanggagaling dito. Kaya nga yung format din ng ating discussion for RFBP, inuna talaga natin yung partnership at corpo para ma-cover natin muna siya sa pre-board, no, and eventually sa final pre-board as well to put more emphasis on these topics that have a very huge weight pagdating sa board exam. Okay? So maraming salamat sa inyong pagpunta. Again, your questions can be addressed in our group. Thank you sa pagpili sa amin. Anytime. Yan, joke. So, again, questions can be posted in the group kung sakasakaling pinaprocess nyo pa, no, ang ating discussion today. So everybody keep safe, God bless, and mag-doble ingat, no, lalo na medyo mataas-taas pa rin ang ating mga cases. Again, God bless, stay safe everybody, and goodbye.